Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at MarketSite, we have Conrad Juncker with Unbanked and Jake Tyler with FinAI, and we're going to focus on banking for the unbanked and the state of fintech as it stands now. Thank you both so much for joining us at MarketSite. And Conrad, I'm going to kick it off with you. Give us an overview of what the fintech landscape looks right now.
Jill, if we look worldwide, we have this interesting race that is starting to pick up speed. The lights coming on in the stadium between fintech players on the one side, typically providing very clear point solutions to customers. The large banks working very hard to try and transform from their old technology stacks, their old way of doing business, to the new. And then in the middle, you've got this new category of players, which we refer to as digital banks or neobanks, that is trying to bring the best of fintech and the best of regulated digital banking together to create new and aggressive competitors, particularly in the retail and the small business banking space.
So Jake, it almost sounds as if older legacy developed banks could potentially be behind in some cases when you look at technology.
Well, I think sort of they certainly have a lot of legacy infrastructure and a lot of inertia in big banks. I think part of the response is that they're competing directly with challenger banks. So Marcus by Goldman Sachs is an example of that here in the US. So I think banks are have multiple different strategies when it comes to dealing with this threat from new disruptors, either own branded banks or folks like Apple who are launching financial products as well.
Well, it sounds like it's a really good opportunity to serve the unbanked segment of the world. I used to cover African markets, and that was one thing that consistently came up was even from an entrepreneurial perspective, they just couldn't compete globally because there was no banking infrastructure in place, and this fintech it's really transforming their lives.
Absolutely, and the time is right now. What we're seeing is the development in things like AI, blockchain, banking technology generally, telephony, and specifically the data that's becoming cheaper and cheaper, the uptake of smartphones, all these things are coming together and creating an ideal environment for disruptive players to come in and serve customers at a different price point, give them a much better and a differentiated service from anything that they've seen before.
Now, you've mentioned blockchain, which is a disruptive technology and something that we invest in a lot at Nasdaq MarketSite here. What about artificial intelligence? Is that making a break into fintech as well?
I think we see that both in new challenger banks and in incumbents, using AI to bring new experiences and to rethink how banking is delivered from an operational perspective. In particular for emerging markets, what we think is really exciting is historically humans have had to learn how to adapt to machines, and the way we're able to use AI is that machines can learn how to adapt to us, so interact with us through natural language conversations, for example. So that can make banking a lot simpler, make that interface of banking a lot simpler, and it can help to bring banking to new places like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, or other channels, voice-enabled IoT, where consumers are spending time.
Okay, so help us understand the relationship with Unbanked and FinAI.
So we help Unbanked. We're a partner or a vendor with Unbanked, helping them to build their virtual assistant Max. That's available as one of their channels as they go to market in South Africa.
Yeah, from a time perspective, our biggest challenge is to bring access to our customers. And that is physical access, affordability, so financial access, and then emotional access. And one of the challenges we have is that we cannot afford to throw armies of people at the problem. We have to find ways to make financial services accessible to our customers, but keep our cost base very low. To give you a sense, we launched the bank in South Africa in November last year. We only have 120 employees in the bank. We want to be no more than 200 employees by the time we reach 5 million customers. But we need to find a way to speak to our customers, to have an ongoing conversation with our customers. And this is where Max, the chatbot, comes in. Because what Max will allow us to do is to speak to those customers, have chats with them in the channels that they used to. South Africa has more than 90% of South Africans use WhatsApp as a channel. So we want Max to be in WhatsApp. If you want to ask a question about your financial well-being, Max must be there to answer your question. Max will always be backed up by humans. You'll always have a button to say, I want to speak to a human. But we think that in time, the large majority of conversations will be dealt with by Max, and it will allow us to give our customers a superior service while at the same time keeping our cost base really, really low.
So there's no physical branches with TimeBank?
That's right.
Right.
So what we've done in TimeBank is we've built a branchless bank, but not entirely digital in this sense that we've rolled out kiosks and services to till points inside retail stores, inside the biggest, one of the biggest retail networks in South Africa is called Pick n Pay. In every Pick n Pay, you will find a kiosk. You'll be able to walk up to the kiosk and get a bank account in 5 minutes, including a personalized debit card.
Prints you out, so you go an account in the equivalent of a Safeway, you can get a new bank account and a printed, branded debit card with your name on it.
What about security, though? What about KYC, knowing your customer and being to validate that this person presenting their identification is who they represent themselves to be?
Yes, the key of that kiosk is that it does all of that. It takes the human error out and actually gives you a superior level of compliance, superior level of risk management, no human error, and you all do all of that in 5 minutes without any documentation. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of where technology is right now. And then the customer can walk from there to the cash register, to the checkout point in the shop, and can actually do a cash deposit right there. So we've turned the retail store into a replacement of the teller network, and we've turned the kiosk into a replacement of the consultant at the branch, giving the customer exactly what they would have gotten in a branch without ever having to build a branch or carry the cost of the branch in the banking network.
So interesting. Thank you both for sharing and spending time with us today.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.